Why did you come here, Jungkook? I asked quietly. He looked at me for a long moment before answering. Jungkook. Because I didn't know where else to go. I stared at him, my breath catching in my throat. Jungkook, the man who never ran from a fight, who I had spent my entire life trying to outmaster, was sitting on my couch, wounded and vulnerable. Is this one of his techniques again? I folded my arms and said, that's the worst excuse I've ever heard. But he didn't even make an expression. He was serious, and I hated that I cared. He exhaled slowly, his gaze fixed on the dark window. Then, in a voice quieter than I had ever heard from him, he said, they're gone. I frowned. Who's gone? He didn't look at me, just kept staring ahead like he was somewhere else entirely. Jungkook. My parents. Everyone in the mansion. I was the only one who made it out. My stomach broke. What? I asked unbelievably. Was it really that bad? I mean, yes, he never came to me for help or a stay, so I thought it was something bad. But this? Jungkook. I barely got out. I was the only survivor. I swallowed, my mind spinning. This wasn't just an ambush. It was a massacre. Someone had wiped out the Jones in a single night. I asked slowly, why are you telling me this, Jungkook? Because if you think about it right now, you're the weakest you've ever been. Even if you get killed here, no one will even come to take revenge for you. His eyes finally met mine, dark and unreadable. I stiffened. Then he coughed and said, no matter how weak I am, you can't kill me, princess. I gritted my teeth. Don't test me. He was about to say something. Then my phone started ringing from the room. I will deal with you later, I said sharply, and rolling my eyes, I went to the room. Because I could leave. Before I could leave, I saw him chuckle. I coughed. How can he laugh right now? I shook my head and answered the call. After 4 to 5 minutes, I came back and decided to settle this once and for all. But I was stopped in my tracks, frozen, when I saw him crying. Is this the first time I'm seeing him cry? I stared quietly because I didn't know what else to do. My heart sank down. I decided to leave him for now because he wouldn't want me to see him like that. As soon as I turned back, my foot got hit with a small table and the vase on it fell down. I gasped. He immediately looked towards me. I was facing the other side, but I could still feel his eyes on my back. When I slowly, hesitatingly looked back, his face was clean. Tears were wiped off, but eyes were still red. He scoffed as he looked at me. Jungkook, I saw you already. You can't even fight properly. I cleared my throat and straightened up. I came to him with a tissue paper in my hand. I handed him one without looking at him, and he took it with a scoff without using it. He just held it in his hand as if he knew he wouldn't cry anymore. You know, you you can cry once in a while. It won't kill you. I can't believe I'm saying this to him, but as soon as I said that, I heard him cry. I finally looked at him, and he was crying badly. Simple. No matter how harsh they were my parents, and it just happened in minutes. I instinctively went close to him, pulling his head to my waist, and he hugged it immediately, crying louder. Although he was an enemy, he was a human first, and it broke my heart because it could happen to me too. He just got unlucky. After a few minutes, I was sitting down on the couch beside him, and we were still hugging each other. His cries got quieter, and he finally said something. Jungkook, you know it could be dangerous being this close to me. Or have you just fallen for me? Just look at him. The moment he is sober, he will try to act off, no matter how absurd it sounds. Who knows? It might be my trick to make you fall in love with me, so that killing you is easier and more fun. But I was 2 steps ahead. He chuckled and broke the hug. Jungkook, fall in love with you? You sure love to read a lot of books, he said while picking up my book from the table that was in front of the couch. I quickly tried to snatch it away. Not my book, Jungkook. He smirked and pulled it out of my reach. I could just punch him on his wound and take it back. I exhaled. I'm not in a mood right now. I'm going to sleep. And you, once you're back at your feet, I'm killing you with my own 2 hands, fair and square. I turned to leave, but he started saying something quietly. Simple. You also think that I'm weak, right? Come on, I can still play at least book with you. I didn't turn back. I clenched my fist and then said, why do you have to prove so hard that you are strong? I hate to admit it, but you are strong. The strongest person I've ever met in my life. Not physically, but mentally and emotionally too. I always wanted to be stronger than you one day. But now that I've seen what you go through to be so strong, I'm starting to think maybe being weak isn't that bad after all. I could hear his breathing slow down from her. And then I left. The next morning, the storm had passed. I woke up and stretched, rubbing the sleeping from my eyes before remembering Jungkook. I stood up, I shot up from bed. I immediately stepped into the living room and saw him exactly where I had left him, curled up on the couch. For a moment, I just stood there watching him. He looked tired. Even in his sleep, his brows were furrowed, like his body refused to relax completely. I sighed, shaking my head before heading to the kitchen. Whatever this was, whatever fragile moment had passed between us last night, it didn't change anything. He was still Jungkook, and I was still me, and our families were still at war. I rummaged through my kitchen, debating whether I should even bother making food for him. A few minutes later, I heard movement behind me. Jungkook stood at the doorway, his hair messier than usual. His voice was rough with sleep. Jungkook, you cook now? Since when? I rolled my eyes. Since I have a guest who looks half dead and would probably pass out if he stood for too long. He smirked, stepping forward. He said, so you do care. I sighed. Sit down and eat before I regret this. Jungkook. Yes, madam, he said and picked up a spoon, staring at the food for a moment before quietly saying, thanks. I paused mid-step, surprisingly looking at him before he said, thanks, but I would say that's all you could make. I sighed, clenching my fist to control my anger. Don't eat if you don't want to. That's the calmest I've ever acted in my life. She smirked and started eating. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then, without looking up, he murmured, what happens now? I stopped, because we both knew what he meant. I could give him up, tell my family he was here, but instead, I found myself saying, you stay until you can stand on your own. He looked at me and asked, and then? We figure it out. I said casually, Joseph. And what if your family finds out? Again, Casually, I said. Then we figured that out too. He looked at me for a few seconds while I kept eating my food, casually. Then he coughed. I know what he's thinking. Jungkook, you're braver than I thought, princess. Did he call me princess again? I pretended not to care and ate my food casually. Jungkook, you gave me a lecture about pretending to be tough last night. And look at you, acting right now. You should be an actress. He laughed. He laughed? That's it. I'm done pretending. So what do you think I should do? I'm nervous as hell right now. As to what if someone finds out you spent the night inside my house while I tended to your wound and even hugged you while you cried and we kissed. This is driving me crazy. Crazy, you get it? I screamed it all out and put both of my hands on my forehead. I even made breakfast for you, I said quietly. And I heard him laugh again. I looked at him in awe. Jungkook, don't worry, you've got me. I want to kill you right now. What? Don't worry because I've got you? That's the only reason for all of my worries, that I've got you. Jungkook, first you're cooking and now you. I scoffed. You're just something else. Don't get comfortable because I'm feeding you. You get it? You need to be healthy so that I can kill you, okay? He shook his head and mockingly ate his food as he said, yeah, yeah, as if you can. It's okay, Wine. Read. Think about how fun it will be to kill him, to twist his stomach with the same fork I'm holding, to throw a hammer at his ankle so that he can't even run away. I'm already imagining him begging on his knees, asking for mercy. I gasped. Uncle, why are you looking at me like you're gonna eat me? Your food is there, madam. I sighed and started eating my food casually.